It's crazy to be informed and then see other people that have no idea about the three branches of government or how their state legislature works. And I'm horrified by that. You know, the danger of how they can then be manipulated by the system. But people that join the corrupt system, they love the fact that the public is so gullible and dumbed down and that tricks work on them. And I mean, I got children. Even if I was an evil person, I wouldn't want them to grow up in a world run by corruption and lies. And I'm not saying there's some utopian thing that's possible, but we certainly can strive towards something better. We know that. We know if we just give up on all standards, things degenerate. And it freaks me out that they actually put real Al-Qaeda in charge by name with people bragging that they've killed U.S. soldiers in Iraq, in control of Libya, and then lecture us about how Al-Qaeda is going to attack America, so I've got to have the TSA grab my genitals. And then you've got all these federal memos where they admit they use the threat of terror as a right to federalize everything as a pretext to take our freedom. I mean, it's admitted. The former head of Homeland Security, Governor Ridge, admitted. Tom Ridge admitted it was all fake, that they issued fake terror alerts. And it's weird that it's almost like the more corrupt it gets, the more some people just buy into it. Because, well, it's the establishment doing it. Now, Congress does have the lowest approval rating ever, and there's all the big polls out that people, the vast majority, think the government's not, you know, in their best interest. And mainstream media is losing more and more credibility and viewers. I mean, those numbers come out every day. So I should be positive, but it's not enough. It's not enough to just not believe these people or not like them. They know you're awake, and so they're going to wreck everything and bring in a hardcore tyranny to suppress us. This isn't like we're just going to figure out they're evil and everything goes away. It's at the point you figure out they're evil that they really show their teeth. I mean, I saw this, I don't know, 2 weeks ago. It was reported that a bunch of surface-to-air heat-seeking missiles, the type that one guy can operate, you pull up on a highway outside an airport. You know, these things, a lot of them I was reading can go up 10, 15,000 feet. The plane takes off. It has no way to avoid it. It's at 2,000, 3,000 feet, flying over a neighborhood. The guy fires it, boom, aircraft goes down. And the feds will love that. You see, in old-time systems, and even just 50 years ago, if an agency screwed up and let something happen, they wouldn't get more power. They would get in trouble. People would get fired or go to jail. Now you get promoted. This is exactly what they want. And so here it is. It's confirmed. Thousands of missiles are missing in Libya. Now, remember, it was in the Washington Post last Friday that they're using drone bases in Libya and surrounding areas to, quote, fight Al-Qaeda in the region. Because they know the average person reading that doesn't put two and two together and go, but wait, they admit they put Al-Qaeda in power, and the groups fighting the Libyan rebels are the opposite of Al-Qaeda, not saying they're really good either. But it's just like when Bush said Iran is with Al-Qaeda and Ahmed, Ahmadinejad is with Al-Qaeda and the dictator, because they've had fake elections of Afghanistan. Mohammed Karzai says, sir, they are not with Al-Qaeda, because he knew all over the Arab and Muslim world that was ridiculous. It was like saying, you know, Bill Clinton is Chinese or something. It is absolutely ridiculous. But they're talking to an American audience. And I remember hearing Bloomberg radio a few weeks ago, and they were laughing, going, Americans don't even hold passports on average, or know where Europe is. They'll never understand. They're being screwed. And they were giggling. But it's true. I wouldn't laugh about it unless it was sardonically in a sad way. I guess in a satirical, sick laugh. I mean, I do that sometimes. But this was a celebratory laugh. Ha ha, the American people are idiots. And here was the investor class getting off on that. You know, when you pull down society, it pulls you down as well. You end up getting carjacked. You end up getting robbed. Your daughter ends up marrying trash. You don't get away with all this stuff. And, all right, here it is, ABC News. Nightmare in Libya, thousands of surfaced air missiles unaccounted for. And now they're going to have checkpoints everywhere because Al-Qaeda is going to attack us. But nobody asked the question. Al-Qaeda leader is now writing columns for the London Guardian. Stay with us. You know, I think the point that I need to make, again, because it's so central, is that it is mentally ill to know that the government is run by corrupt, ruthless special interests who are above the law and are getting away with crazier and crazier stuff by the day. And then to continue, though, to believe anything the government or the media owned by these big banks tells you. That is crazy. I mean, if you had an employee that had lied to you 10 times, you'd fire him for sure on the second or third time. Wouldn't get to 10. If you had a neighbor that constantly lied to you, after 3 or 4 times, you'd learn that guy's bad news, and you'd stop talking to them. You might even move. I know I've moved before when I've had bad neighbors. But instead, because we don't feel like we can get rid of these criminals, we just kind of give in to them. Well, that's what the pimp does. You know, he slaps me across the face. It's really a broken attitude. So, yes, the people know, on average, every poll shows it, the vast majority, over 80%, know the government killed Kennedy, know the Federal Reserve's private ripping us off, and know that we're in trouble. And don't want the TSA sticking their hands down our pants. That's right at 90%. And don't want it at the NFL. That's above 85%. But the establishment's answer is not going to be, oh, well, we'll just go away. No, they're used to having their way. That's why they've proposed martial law in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. That's why all over the country they're just banning citizens' communications or arresting people that try to politely bring up government corruption at city council meetings. That's why the North Carolina governor, the media is trying to say it was a joke now, but he told the newspaper it was not a joke. He said it seriously, that because of the crisis, they should just suspend Congress, suspend elections for 2 years, which would be suspending Congress. It wouldn't be a real Congress anymore. And that's all part and parcel with the super Congress making the spending decisions on what bills get brought forward. That is the power of the purse. Out of the General House into a super Congress. The Senate now is involved in bringing forward, because there's senators that are on it, along with House members, bringing forward spending legislation, completely unconstitutional. And then even, so-called patriots and people out there can't get their minds around the fact that this is new and draconian. They're like, well, we've had special committees before, not like this one we haven't. Ron Paul got it right and said it's not in the Constitution. But that's not even strong enough language for what we're dealing with. So what happens is people just get accustomed to tyranny by degree, and they make more and more and more and more excuses for it. Look at this stack of news right here. In fact, if you give me a document cam shot in there, prisonplanet.tv folks can watch this. All this news is up at Infowars.com and prisonplanet.com. If you're a radio listener, you can go check it out. OnStar kills plan to track ex-subscribers. Every time they get criticized for this by the alternative media and it gets picked up, they say, okay, well, we won't do that now. You notice they send a message out saying, even if you opt out or turn off the service, we're going to have audio link and listen to you, and we're going to track everywhere you go, and we're going to sell that to insurance companies and the government. I mean, you don't think they're just, you have all this technology because they care about you. You don't just think you get a digital cable box because they love you. It's tracking everything you do. There was a public school in California, another one in Pennsylvania. A few years ago, they came out and said, kids, be good. We're watching you at home over your laptop. And it was a minority of parents came out and said, well, that's Big Brother. And the school said, no, that's safety. And then the school had such disdain. When they got criticized, they suddenly switched gears and lied and said, we're not listening or watching you. They said, but you were on the news. Here you are saying it. So lawsuits were filed and the thousands of videos. It was tens of thousands of videos and tens of thousands of photos of kids in the shower. The school administrators, the teachers could hardly get their work done watching the kids at home. Police were calling kids into the principal's office because they were seen eating pills. Turned out it was Skittles. And I've noticed that when I was warning people about this beforehand, when these big companies were bragging in their stock prospectus boil downs and stockholder reports that they were watching everybody at home and tracking everybody and listening to everybody, and every major company was doing it. Telecommunications Act since '96, everything wired in by federal regulatory law to do this. But see, they weren't ready for the public to know about that at that time. So I'd talk about it and show documents. They'd be like, you know, national TV, local news. This guy is a lunatic. The government, the corporations would never do that to you. Now that we've been eased into this, they're like, oh, yeah, every big company's doing it. That's actually their biggest profit margin. Why, the major pizza chains are now, in some cases, making more money per quarter on tips to law enforcement because they get 25% of the fines and fees than they do off pizza sales. I remember seeing a case, must have been 15, 16 years. No, my grandfather was really still alive and in good shape then. I guess that was actually I was in high school. That was like 20 years ago. And I remember I used to go over some Sundays and watch 60 Minutes when my grandma made dinner. Grandma's still alive. And watch 60 Minutes. I'll never forget watching 60 Minutes. And it was about how the airline ticket people, in many cases, make double or triple. One lady was paid 30-something thousand a year, and she's made over 100,000 that year when people paid cash calling air marshals on them. And then they would just confiscate the cash and go, you shouldn't have $10,000. And it was a case of where the guy sued and fought back. He was from South Carolina, flying to Houston, and he liked the cash business. It turned out his taxes were all paid and everything. And then he'd get a discount for paying cash. He's an old guy on the barrelhead for the trees. They would then ship by 18-wheeler, a whole bunch of 18-wheelers up to the Carolinas. And they took his $10,000 and everything. And it turned out that ticket teller was getting some of the money. I remember watching 60 Minutes, actually a pretty good show sometimes. Kind of old-line journalism. You know, they're still globalists, but they're so arrogant and want to be on top that they still report on things about major hospitals killing people for their organs. Of course, it was the usual suspect, Illinois, New York, places like that. And, of course, just a few years before, when my dad said, do not sign your organ donor card, word is in Dallas hospitals they won't save you and will harvest your organs. And my dad was a dentist, oral surgeon, and had worked rewiring jaws and things in hospitals and knew a lot of doctors. But I still remember thinking my dad was crazy when I was doing my driving test when I was 15. He said, do not sign that organ donor card, son. Do not sign it. Because the word is doctors in town say don't sign it. But that's just a doctor-to-doctor thing, you see. And I'm thinking, my dad is a funny guy, he's a smart guy, but come on. This stuff isn't true. And then 60 Minutes, they're taking your organs. They caught him in Austin taking organs of people and letting them die to get them, and taking their corneas. That's the big ones. They even had one case where they thought they'd let the guy die, and they'd let the anesthesia go away, and they'd already taken one of his kidneys. That happened a few years ago, and he woke up and on the operating table, and the doctors were like, put him down, and a nurse rebelled, so the guy got sewed up and lived. That's why we know about it. But you know, that's how crime works, though. Because that's how those hospitals work. They'll give those doctors a little cut on the side of the 400, 500,000 organs they'll pull out of somebody. And see, it's only our naivete that allows all this to happen. I know I keep going back to that. But I talk to men and women and others, and they can be successful business people, But if they're not tuned into the real world, they're only specialized in their area and they care about going to the movies or playing golf or collecting wristwatches or motorcycles or whatever it is. You tell them basic stuff that's absolute fact and they'll look at you like you're crazy. In fact, this morning I was listening to this local talk show host and he was talking about the conspiracy theorists that don't like OnStar listening to you and tracking you. So see, I was a kook before for saying it was happening, but now I'm still a kook. I'm still a kook now that it has come out and is admitted. I'm a kook for not liking it. That's like medical device seller guy I talked to on air, but I've talked to other people in person it's happened to. And he went back to his company many years. He said, look, I want to start working in the office. I want a desk job, even if it's a pay cut. Because I am tired of having my genitals grabbed all the time and going through this, and they want to put me in microwave scanners. And his boss said, well, so you're a conspiracy theorist now. Now, let's get this straight. He doesn't like going in a microwave oven. He doesn't like having his space violated. This is not disputed. This is going on. Not liking it is a conspiracy theorist. And, you know, some of these local shows, I only try to call in every 2-3 months. And this particular show, I've called him before, and this call screener says, no, Alex. I actually know the program director, and he's like, oh, please call him. We'd love to have you on any of the shows. But, you know, the call screener, oh, I talked to the host. They don't want your input. They just want to sit there and make jokes about me. Or when somebody calls in and brings up a fact, well, hey, Ron Paul's actually winning many of these polls and in second or third place. Oh, yeah, and they start playing X-Files music or Imperial Battle March and go, that sounds like Alex Jones. Turning the light on at night if you go outside to put something in the trash can is evil, is a conspiracy theory. Thinking, being involved, watching your step, it's weird. You see, it's an attribute to be a sucker, to be a chump, to be an idiot. I mean, this is beyond 1984. In this nightmare, horrid future that he foresaw under English socialism, Eric Blair, pen name George Orwell, imagined where there's cameras and microphones at the park hidden and where your TV watches you two-way. I mean, I remember a engineer from Time Warner contacting me 15 years ago. And then even coming to my house and meeting with me and showing me the Scientific Atlantic cable box and showing me how there was a built-in microphone and explaining that it wasn't in the manual, it wasn't advertised what you would use it for, and that it was two-way. And that they were going to come out with DVR systems soon, other companies were, and that it was going to track everything you did. Of course, now that's all admitted. And I went on air and warned people and got laughed at. And then years later, I had a Time Warner cable guy at the house, one of the installers. And I said, you know, that's got a microphone. And the guy's like, yeah, I know it's got one, but so what? Why are you acting like I was weird? Because, I mean, this is what I'm talking about here. Oh, you don't like people grabbing your genitals. You're a conspiracy theorist. That's like saying, I like strawberry ice cream, not chocolate. And they say, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. You know, I prefer Dodge over Ford. Well, you're a conspiracy. Thinking is now a conspiracy theory. I prefer lime Topo Chico mineral water over regular. See, it's a throwaway line that they now just use against people. It's like when that trader came out, that stock trader came out on Goldman Sachs and said, they rule the world, we're going to have a depression, the money's all going out of Europe. And BBC responded to their own report. Forbes did. I covered it last night on the Nightly News and said, is this a hoax? Is he a real trader? Because what he said was so true, they just tried to imply, oh, it's a hoax, instead of making it about the real issues he talked about. They always want to change the subject. So they had articles out earlier in the week going, is OnStar really listening? When it was sent to 6 million OnStar customers in North America, and was confirmed by hundreds of technology publications and blogs. Still, last week and this week, it was, is it real? Is it real? Nightly news. They knew full well that it was real. But they had to first say, is it real, to discredit it in the mind and say, is it a conspiracy theory? And then say, okay, they are, but now they're not going to listen to you and track you. But if you read the fine print, they're saying, okay, if you opt out, we won't track you anymore. But of course, these are big, brazen, exempt, immune, multinational, tax-exempt companies. They are going to continue. TomTom gets caught 2 years ago. They're caught again. Facebook caught 2 years ago. They're caught again. They're not caught. This is a bum rush. I remember 10 years ago, they had a big conference on RFID and tracking with big corporate leaders in Chicago. And I was reading through the transcript. A listener emailed it to me who had, and I went to the area. And it had the big CEO up there going, our prospectus analysis shows 87% of people are against RFID and tracker systems. But in another study, we show that over 90% will end up submitting if we just force the issue. But we've got to have industry unification to have mass adoption of this system. And the total goal is total tracking and predictive systems that will allow us to predict future trends within close to 100% probability. Applause. They're up there. We have a crystal ball takeover system. We will force this through. I mean, they're just right there in your face saying, we are going to force this down their throats. And I can't even get the general public to wake up because they were preconditioned this didn't exist. Instead of going, wow, I was lied to. This government and these corporations are out of control. It's like, well, okay, they're listening to us, but I still like the government, and maybe it's reasonable. It's this little ninnying thing where these metrosexual men, I've noticed, they will, like, team up with the corruption. They'll go, well, I'm for that then. And it's just like, just because you sit there and play in your mind, make believe that the government's your imaginary friend, it isn't your friend. You're a schmuck. That's the word for you, a schmuck, a sucker who loves, a willful moron. And I am sick of willful morons who want to be slaves and then who all get together and go, I think it's good they're going door to door with forced inoculations in California under color of law. You should do that. I don't want to get sick from you not being vaccinated. Hey, moron, if you've been given a vaccine that protects you, then why do you care what I do with my body? Get out of my life. I got all this fake racism news, too, they're really pushing. It's now reached like a witch hunt for a guy was out in an ice cream cone outfit from Puerto Rico. They thought it was a Klan event. It's all coming up, the economy and more. Stay with us. OnStar kills plan to track ex-subscribers. And again, they've now come out and said, okay, we're not going to track you now, even if you never activate it. See, something like that shouldn't come as a automatic in all General Motors cars. You should have to opt into that. But notice, oh, here it is, but don't worry, you don't have to turn it on. Yeah, right. Here's another one. Facebook tracks your every move even after you're logged out. That was on Infowars.com yesterday. Now today, we didn't mean to track you, says Facebook as social network giant admits to bugs in new privacy row or fight. Remember what Zuckerman said? He said, you're a bunch of dumb effers. He said, our users trust us, and just started laughing. Oh, it's so much fun. He admitted he did that. See, the globalists revel in the fact that you don't want to believe they're bad people. And so because you won't admit that, they've got free reign over you. They've got free reign over all of us. All right, I got a bunch of other news. This is getting insane. Drudge linked to this yesterday. AP labeled racist for accurately transcribing Obama's speech. Meanwhile, a Puerto Rican guy who doesn't even know what the Ku Klux Klan is was in an ice cream outfit, and people thought it was the Klan, caused a big freak out. They got a UC Berkeley bake sale, ignites protest. Why? They got a law about to be signed by the governor that says if you're black, you pay a lot less tuition, and that is discriminatory. Two wrongs don't make a right. So they're calling them racist for illustrating it, for illustrating the racism. The Air Force is going to be targeting on the highways of America underage drinkers. That's how they've decided to roll out troops on the streets. That's all coming up.